There's a number of coping strategies you can use as a highly sensitive person to really show up as your best self. And a lot of them obviously involve around self-care. So today we're going to be getting into the aspect of sleep and why I think sleep is the most important self-care technique to prioritize as a highly sensitive person. Hey everyone, my name is Kevin and welcome to Sensitive Acceptance, where our mission is to change the way society views emotions and to view them in a much more positive light. If you're interested in learning more about high sensitivity or highly sensitive people, more about personality psychology, MBTI type stuff, or mental health as well, please hit the subscribe button. I'll be making more content. Turn the bell notification on as well. I'll be making more content related to these topics. So as I just mentioned, we're going to be talking about sleep in this video. I'm going to talk about my experience with sleep as a highly sensitive person, why I think sleep is very important, my journey kind of getting off coffee, which I found was actually a key detriment to my sleep, and I'm going to give some advice as well on what I think can be done to enhance your sleep, to make sure you're getting the best quality sleep possible. So more than anything else, more than exercise, more than diet, more than eating crappy processed food, I found that sleep is the thing that'll cause me to be most irritable during the day. It's the one thing that'll set me off and just completely get me off my kilter, get me off center, unable to really show up as my full self. So, for example, I find that overstimulation, which I talked about in my last video, one of the key aspects of being a highly sensitive person is getting overstimulated very easily by things in your environment like noises, smells, being much more affected by those things. And so I find like I get very irritable very easily. So I find I'll have a bit of a personal bubble around me. And if someone tries to kind of get into that bubble or kind of change my experience for that day, maybe try and get me to do something when I'm just obviously not in that emotional groundedness and in a space where I'm nice and calm and relaxed and I can easily engage with someone about something that they may want me to do, then I can completely lose it. Another thing I found is like loud noises can affect me much more when I get little sleep. So for example, a couple of the previous weekends, so I have some construction going on at my next door neighbor's house. So I found if I don't get a really good sleep, I'll sit there outside on the porch trying to read a book, just watch a video or something, and I find like every little noise coming from that house, whether it's some kind of drilling or some other kind of work that's going on, that thing will just completely, I just cannot tune it out. And every time I hear it, it just kind of amplifies to the point where I literally just am unable to multitask. I have to leave the environment and go somewhere else. And another thing is if I'm in a conversation, let's say at the dinner table with my family, and let's say they're talking particularly passionately or using a lot of emotion in what they're talking about to the point where they're not really necessarily calm when they're talking, but let's say they're really excited about something or really passionate about something, that alone is enough to irritate me because of how loud they're speaking, and sometimes I'll actually get agitated to the point where I actually express it and I have to leave the table and they seem kind of confused, like why we didn't do anything wrong. Well, what is going on here? So building off that point, I think that, you know, it's really when during those days when you're operating with less sleep, you really reach that overstimulation threshold much earlier. And that's kind of how I describe the feeling of being overstimulated as a highly sensitive person. It's kind of like at some point during the day, you hit kind of a threshold, and after that point, you literally just, you can't take in any more stress or any more loud noises or any sort of really stimulating types of things or activities. You just don't have, as much as you may want to, you just don't have that mental energy and that like just overall energy to be able to take that on. So I find like once I reach that breaking point, I can become very impatient. I can become very self-critical. I just can't get into that that space of gratitude within myself. I get just very finding things wrong with everything and fixating on those things that are wrong in my life and not really being able to see really everything around me that's going on that's actually good. And I can also, again, become very irritable, become very angry easily. I can get set off by something very easily. If someone speaks about something that is, let's say, in opposition to one of my strong values or beliefs, and this is actually one of the reasons why I feel like I might be an INFP, is, if someone tries to, let's say I express something and then they express that they don't agree with that value or opinion, I can get very flustered very quickly, especially when I'm on little sleep. A couple other practical examples of this. If I go out with some friends on, let's say, Friday night after a long day at work where I got up early that day, I dealt with a lot of stimulation. I went through a Toastmasters meeting because I'm part of a Toastmasters club. And then after all that, I have to go out and socialize with friends. And I find like I just don't show up as my complete self because of that. And another thing is, sometimes I'll go on and play some video games with my friends, and that's not only a social situation to some extent, but it's also a situation where there's a lot of stimulation coming from the video game. Because I play some first-person shooters like Call of Duty, so there's a lot of, obviously, images, a lot of loud noises, a lot of also strategy that's involved, so it's a lot of mental energy that gets thrown into that mix as well. So all those things on little amounts of sleep can be challenging. On a side note, leave a comment down below. Let me know, have you been able to sleep very easily? Do you find it very easy to sleep as a highly sensitive person? Or do you find that your sleep can suffer very easily? Comment down below, and I'm curious to hear about your experience, and I'll do my best to respond to you. So now I'm going to get into how coffee had affected my sleep and why I think drinking coffee is probably, there's more to be lost than to be gained with drinking coffee. And so I've been a coffee drinker for maybe a number of years now, since I graduated from school, and now kind of being in the workplace too. It's kind of, I found a need to drink coffee sometimes. In fact, every day. That's what I mean by sometimes. So I guess what I've been noticing was, well, first of all, it can make me a bit anxious and on edge. But on top of that, it was taking me a really long time to fall asleep, like upwards of an hour, sometimes over an hour. And I was trying to figure out a way to change that, ways that I could maybe also avoid the afternoon slump and get more work done and feel good, more consistently good throughout the day. But also really, I was getting to a point where falling asleep so late was causing my almost like a loop of where the more I fell asleep really late, the less sleep I got, and I would have to drink more and more coffee the day after, and it would just go into this cycle where I would keep drinking more and more coffee, actually adding more coffee and having more of a caffeine spike. So that was something I wanted to end. And so I was tracking my sleep with something called the Sleep Cycle app. I'll put a link below to the app, but I didn't want to get the paid version because I don't think it's incredibly accurate. I would just use the free version if I were you guys. But it essentially tracks how long you slept throughout the night, and it shows when you're in your deep sleep and so forth. So I was using that for a little while, and that's how I knew how long I was sleeping. So I went on a journey to get off coffee, and I didn't go off cold turkey, but I slowly started to decrease the amount I was drinking every day and decrease the amount of coffee I was putting in itself. And that period was tough. I was actually very irritable. I had some headaches. I was very snappy. I could get really thrown off kilter very easily if I was at work or whatever. And I had to really work on being patient with people, being calm, being, myself. But after a while, I had successfully gotten off of it, and using the Sleep Cycle app, I was now monitoring my sleep after coffee, and I did notice a difference. I did notice that I was able to fall asleep after 20 to 30 minutes on average, which is quite good. And I've noticed that consistently throughout the time that I've spent without coffee. So the point there is, if you guys are drinking coffee every day, and so another thing I forgot to add is that, I was just drinking coffee in the morning. It's not like I had like 2 cups a day, or if I had any cups in the afternoon. I was only drinking in the morning, but because I am a highly sensitive person, likely my body's response to the coffee is more sensitive, to the point where even if I drink it earlier in the day, it takes longer for my body to restore to the point where I can get good sleep even later that night, because I had coffee earlier in the day. I don't know this for sure, but that's that's what I believe was the case. So if you are a highly sensitive person, you're drinking coffee, and you notice your sleep is not as good as it could be, I would recommend trying to go off coffee for a bit and see what you notice. So another thing about sleep, it's very important, as I mentioned, but for highly sensitive people, sleep can be a very challenging thing to get a grasp on, I found, which makes it very frustrating, because we need sleep so much, but it's also so easy for our sleep to be thrown off. So I mentioned the construction next door, and I've had a battle for maybe 6 months now where I will get woken up early in the morning, and this mostly affects me on weekends if I stay up gaming like one night and I just want to be able to sleep later that day. But I find that the slightest noise coming from next door outside will be enough to wake me up, whereas my family will not get waken up by that noise. So just a little bang, a little, hammer noise coming up from outside will be enough to wake me up, and sometimes that's at like 7 or 8 on a weekend, which is incredibly frustrating. So I've been weighing for a long time, should I get some noise canceling headphones or something like that. I ended up opting not to do that, because it only affects me really one day a week where this is the case. The other days I wake up early anyways. But that is something important to note. You will be likely more sensitive to noise. That's what I found. Another big one is sensitivity to light. And this is something I've been facing lately, because it gets dark really late now, and it gets light very early now, because it's the summer and the days are longer. And you'll notice the window behind me here, this is the window from my room, and I don't have proper blinds. I have like translucent blinds where the light will just come right in first thing in the morning. So the problem with that is even the light, like a small light coming up at like 5 in the morning, will be enough to get my body to wake up. And this is something I noticed the past few weeks. And that's obviously a problem, because at that point, I find it sometimes hard to get back to sleep, because I'm so close to the morning where my body's not as tired. But, and sometimes my body will be very irritable to the point where I'll start thinking about all these things, and my mind will just get overloaded with thoughts, especially negative ones, and I'll have a hard time falling back asleep. So I had to essentially buy opaque roller blinds, which are not here yet, and I actually had to move my mattress into another room to sleep there for the time being. So that's a way that light has affected my ability to sleep longer, whereas my family hasn't really had these issues that I've had. Another thing, this is kind of more of a minor point, but sensitivity to smell. The only reason I mentioned that being a factor in sleep is because I do use an essential oils diffuser, which I find has been also had an added benefit. This is something that the current box set, which is like a bunch of sleep blends, I've been using also within the time when I was getting off coffee. So this may have had an effect as well in my ability to get more sleep. But I do use an essential oils diffuser, and this is it right here. I'll put a link down below. This current model right here is not available at present moment, but that might change. But it's been very effective. I really like this. It's affordable, and I just put it on maybe half an hour before I go to bed, and it emits essential oils, which are really nice smells that are very relaxing, help calm my body, and are supposedly supposed to help you sleep better. And so these are the essential oils here. I'll also put a link to those down below. Also unavailable right now, unfortunately. I think it's because of the pandemic. but I'll just show you the blends. It's from a company called Sage Natural Wellness. So some of these blends are like Dream State, Peaceful Slumber, Tranquility, and Good Night. But this set right here is like a sleep specific set. So all the blends are supposed to be targeted toward your sleep, but they have a lot of other blends. If you do go to the link down below, this particular set is not available, but I believe the Tranquility one is available, and there's a bunch of other essential oils there from the same brand that you'll find. So there are some other ones available that you can browse. And then the final aspect related to sensory sensitivity as it affects your sleep is being sensitive to what's inside your body. So you know, we talked about coffee. Alcohol is also a bad one to have close to sleep. I've noticed my sleep. Anyone who tells you that you have a really good sleep after a night of drinking is completely wrong. It's not, you won't have a good sleep, trust me. So that's another thing. And I also try to limit what I'm drinking before bed, because sometimes I'll find, even if I have a little bit of liquid like an hour before, I'll find that like even if I need to use the washroom a little bit, like I'll notice it a lot more, and I'll have to keep getting out of bed to use the washroom, and it delays that amount of time before I go to sleep that I can use to fall asleep much quicker. So before this video ends, I just want to provide a quick summary of what you can do to help your sleep based off what I've talked about. So the first thing is you need to establish a regular bedtime. You know, I find I have a tough time being disciplined about this, and sometimes I just want to stay up, you know, watch some more videos or just hang out and you know, continue entertaining myself. But circadian rhythm is just very important for HSPs, I find. You need to be able to have a very consistent sleep schedule so your body gets adjusted to that, and you can really wake up feeling as optimal as possible, because yeah, you know, sleep is just so important, and you need to, it's just harder to achieve that optimal state where you're really able to feel grounded emotionally, you know, ready to start the day, feeling pumped up, all those good aspects that you want. Even if I stay up gaming for one night, I can actually get thrown off kilter for 1 to 2 days where I just do not feel as good and I'm just not feeling optimal. So other things, limit your fluids before bed. As I mentioned, you know, maybe 2 hours before, stop drinking any liquids. That's what I would recommend at least. And cutting out coffee is another good one that I've mentioned. The aroma diffuser, essential oils can help. And also making your room as dark as possible, which ties into the sensitivity to light that I described earlier. Keeping, you know, even small lights coming off your computer, electronics, you can just put a towel over that, or, you know, just cover it up in some way to help prevent that excess light getting in. So to round up this video, as I said before, I do believe more so than diet or exercise, sleep is the best thing you can do related to self-care for really showing up and being able to bring all the strengths of your HSP traits out in your day-to-day, and, you know, not allowing your emotions and that irritability you can tend to feel to really knock you off kilter. And so whenever I'm kind of feeling moody or depressed or just kind of not myself, you know, I can usually trace it back to one of the basic factors like sleep, diet, or exercise, but definitely more so sleep. So if you guys enjoyed this video, I'd definitely appreciate it if you leave a like, and also hit the subscribe button if you guys are interested in more content related to high sensitivity, especially related to what it's like being a highly sensitive man. And also, I'll be getting into some personality type stuff like Myers-Briggs stuff, and just some mental health discussion as well. So if that's something that interests you, definitely hit the subscribe button and click the bell as well to stay notified. But that's essentially it, I believe. So until next time, guys, please take care, and I'll see you in the next one.